The planet below shimmered with oceans of indigo and sprawling emerald continents. Perseverance 3, the first human colony beyond the Sol system, was supposed to be a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit. Instead, it now stood on the brink of annihilation. Captain Elena Vasquez narrowed her eyes at the impossible sight on the holo display. A fleet of alien warships, sleek, obsidian behemoths, hovered in geosynchronous orbit, their weapons humming with quiet menace. A voice, cold and absolute, crackled through the colony's comms. Humans of Perseverance 3. This is Overlord Skelrath of the Kai Dominion. You are trespassers. You will surrender or be eradicated. Silence fell over the command center. Around the room, her crew, scientists, engineers, settlers exchanged uneasy glances. Vasquez let the tension settle before turning to her second-in-command. Raj, she said, voice calm but firm, tell me our defenses aren't just window dressing. Dr. Raj Patel, the colony's chief engineer, pushed his glasses up his nose and exhaled. Well, Captain, let's just say if they attack, the best I can do is make sure we die interestingly. From across the room, Yara Quinn, their lead xenobiologist, muttered, maybe they don't mean harm. This could be a cultural misunderstanding. Boomer Kowalski, a demolitions expert with more scars and common sense, barked a laugh. Yeah, 'cause last time I checked, hovering a death fleet over a colony isn't exactly a warm handshake. Before Vasquez could respond, a deafening boom rattled the base. The power flickered, alarms screamed, and the floor trembled. The main display flickered, showing a section of the colony. Sector 12, now a smoldering crater. The guy had fired a warning shot. Vasquez turned back to the comms. Overlord Skelrath, she said evenly, you've just killed civilians. That's not how negotiations work. A low, guttural laugh crackled back over the speakers. Negotiations? There are no negotiations. Human, you will submit. Another explosion rocked the colony. Vasquez gritted her teeth. Raj, I need options. Now! The first blow. Patel's hands blurred across his tablet. We got a few emergency turrets. But they won't scratch that fleet. I can rig up an EMP, buy us time. Do it, Vasquez ordered. She turned to Yara. What about underground? The science teams mapped out caverns beneath the colony, right? Yara nodded. Yes, but they're unstable. If we collapse the wrong passage, we could be trapped. Better trapped than dead. Vasquez keyed the colony-wide comms. All personnel, evacuate the sub-level shelters immediately. Another explosion sent sparks showering from the ceiling. A Kai strike team had landed. Through the shattered viewport, Vasquez saw them. Tall, skeletal figures clad in dark armor, advancing with unnatural precision. Boomer cracked his knuckles. Finally, something I understand. He grabbed a plasma rifle and turned to Vasquez. Permission to go introduce myself? She hesitated. Boomer was reckless. But right now, reckless might be exactly what they needed. Go, she said. Boomer grinned and sprinted for the armory. Adapt or die. As sirens wailed, Vasquez and Yara led survivors into the underground tunnels. Raj followed, juggling a jury-rigged EMP device in his hands. We need a way to disrupt their communications, Raj panted. They're coordinated, too coordinated. Cut them off, and we might stand a chance. Yara pointed ahead. There's an old relay station in the lower caverns. If we can reroute its signal, maybe we can jam their command frequencies. They pushed forward as Kai patrols swept the surface, hunting for survivors. Suddenly, an explosion above collapsed part of the tunnel, cutting off their path. Dust choked the air. Raj coughed. Guess we're committed now. Vasquez glanced at Yara. You're sure about the relay station? Yara swallowed hard. About 75% sure. Good enough, Vasquez muttered. Let's move. Meanwhile, on the surface, Boomer Kowalski was having the time of his life. Ducking behind a supply crate, he lobbed a homemade explosive into the middle of Kai's squad. The resulting blast sent bodies flying. A nearby Kai warrior snarled and charged him with a plasma blade. Boomer dodged at the last second, smacking the alien with the butt of his rifle. Not today, Skeletor. The alien recovered fast, but Boomer was already pulling the pin on a grenade and shoving it into the Kai's chest plate. Catch! He dove for cover. The alien erupted in blue fire. Boomer grinned. These guys weren't so tough after all. Then the sky lit up with incoming dropships. Okay, he muttered. Maybe a little tough. The choice. Deep in the caverns, Vasquez and her team reached the relay station. Raj Pride opened the panel. Give me 2 minutes. They didn't have 2 minutes. Through the cavern entrance, Kai's soldiers closed in. Yara grabbed Vasquez's arm. We're outnumbered. We can still surrender. No. Vasquez met her gaze, unwavering. They don't take prisoners. Yara exhaled, then nodded. Raj cursed as sparks shot from the panel. Almost got it. A Kai soldier raised its rifle, and Boomer Kowalski barreled into the cavern, covered in soot, grinning like a madman. Miss me? He fired wildly, forcing the Kai into cover. Then Raj yelled, Done! The relay station flared to life, hijacking the Kai's signal. Across the battlefield, their movements turned erratic, confused. Vasquez didn't hesitate. Hit them now. Boomer opened fire. Yara grabbed a fallen plasma rifle. Raj ducked behind a console, frantically recalibrating the jamming frequency. Within seconds, the battle shifted. The Kai, disoriented and vulnerable, began to fall back. Vasquez exhaled, adrenaline still pumping. It wasn't a victory. Not yet. But for the first time since the invasion began, the humans had stopped retreating. And that meant something. The smell of scorched metal and ozone clung to the underground bunker. Dim emergency lights flickered, casting jagged shadows against the rock walls. Captain Elena Vasquez paced before a makeshift holo display, reviewing the latest intel. The Kai weren't retreating. They were regrouping. How bad? She asked, knowing the answer already. Dr. Raj Patel leaned against the console, rubbing exhaustion from his eyes. That jamming signal bought a few hours, but they're already adapting. Their ships are using encrypted relays now. We won't be able to cut off their command structure again. So, we hit them before they're ready. Boomer Kowalski, still dusted and soot from the last battle, cracked his knuckles. I like where this is going. Hold on. Yara Quinn interjected. She had been poring over geological scans, her brow furrowed in thought. Blindly attacking won't work, but there might be another way. These caverns, there's something down here, something old. Vasquez folded her arms. Define something old. Yara tapped on her datapad. A projection flickered to life, revealing a massive subterranean structure buried beneath the colony. It's ancient, older than the Kai presence here. The science teams barely scratched the surface before the attack, but the energy readings are off the charts. It could be a weapon. Boomer's grin widened. Now you're speaking my language. Raj adjusted his glasses. You're assuming it's still functional. We don't have a choice, Vasquez said. Raj, Yara, figure out how to activate it. Boomer, you're with me. We're going to slow down the Kai reinforcements topside. Boomer slapped his rifle. Hell yeah. The desperate plan. T-minus 30 minutes to Kai offensive. Raj and Yara worked feverishly in the cavern's depths, cutting through layers of rock and debris. Each step deeper into the ruins unveiled more questions. Sleek black obelisks covered in unreadable symbols, consoles humming with dormant power. This is incredible, Yara whispered, brushing her fingers against an alien control panel. Who built this? Not our biggest problem right now, Raj muttered. If we can't turn it on, we'll never know. They followed a narrow corridor, finally arriving at what looked like a central command nexus. A massive device, part console, part throne, stood at the room's core. Its surface pulsed faintly, waiting. Raj pulled out his tools. Okay, let's wake this thing up. The battle above. Meanwhile, Vasquez and Boomer emerged from the tunnels onto the war-torn surface. The colonies remained smoldering in the distance, the air thick with the acrid scent of burning metal. Kai dropships loomed overhead, deploying fresh shock troops. Their towering exoskeletal warriors moved with terrifying efficiency, advancing on human holdouts. Boomer crouched beside Vasquez behind a collapsed wall. Tell me we're not going in guns blazing. Would I do that? Boomer raised an eyebrow. Vasquez smirked. Fine. We'll be strategic. She tapped her comm. Raj, how's it coming? Static. Then, working on it. Just keep them distracted. Vasquez sighed. Figures. She turned to Boomer. Time for Plan B. And Plan B is... She pulled a detonator from her belt. We blow up their landing zone. Boomer's grin could have powered a starship. Why didn't we start with that? The device awakens. Deep below, Raj wiped sweat from his forehead as the console flickered to life. Symbols realigned, glowing with an eerie golden hue. The entire chamber thrummed with latent power, as if something was waking up. Yara stared at the readings in awe. This isn't just a weapon, it's a network. A planetary defense system? More than that, it's linked to the entire planet. If I can decipher this interface, I might be able to trigger a pulse, one big enough to disrupt the Kai fleet. Raj hesitated. You said might. Yara met his gaze. We don't have time for guarantees. Raj exhaled sharply. Then let's roll the dice. Chaos unleashed. Above, Vasquez and Boomer sprinted toward the Kai supply depot. The towering structures housed dropships, mechs, and munitions, all vulnerable if they played their cards right. Vasquez marked the weak points on her visor. 3 charges. Detonate them simultaneously, and we turn this into a fireworks show. Boomer nodded. Music to my ears. They moved fast, placing charges along the fuel depots. But as Boomer armed the final bomb, a shadow loomed behind them, of Kai Warlord. 7 feet of reinforced armor and pure malice. Its glowing blade hummed as it spoke in a guttural growl. You fight like vermin. Your defiance is pointless. Boomer, unfazed, tilted his head. That's supposed to scare me, Skeletor? The warlord lunged. Vasquez barely dodged in time. Boomer rolled under its strike, coming up with a shotgun blast to the chest. It staggered but didn't fall. We need to go. Vasquez shouted, firing at the warlord's exposed joints. Boomer jammed the detonator into bomb's casing and grinned. See you in hell. They dived for cover as the depot erupted into a chain reaction of explosions. The warlord roared, engulfed in inferno. The final gambit. In the depths, Yara pressed a final command. The ancient machine shuddered to life. Above, the entire battlefield trembled as pulses of golden energy erupted from the planet's core, surging skyward in brilliant arcs. The Kai fleet, caught mid-maneuver, reeled as systems overloaded. Shields failed. Engines flickered. Their once impervious warships staggered in disarray. The humans watched in stunned silence as the impossible unfolded. Boomer let out a low whistle. Now that's an explosion. Vasquez tapped her comm. Raj, tell me that was you? Raj's breathless chuckle came through. Actually, you should thank Yara. Vasquez looked at Yara, who stood amidst the glowing ruins, awestruck and triumphant. It worked, Yara whispered. We turned the planet against them. Vasquez allowed herself the smallest of smiles. Then we just might have a fighting chance. The battlefield above Perseverance. 3 had changed. The once invincible Kai war fleet now drifted in chaos, their ships crippled by the planet's pulse. Golden energy still crackled through the sky, residual from the ancient weapon's awakening. But Captain Elena Vasquez knew this wasn't over. She stood in the command center, surrounded by her ragtag team, Raj Patel, Yara Quinn, and Boomer Kowalski. As they studied the hollow display, the Kai weren't retreating. They were regrouping. We hit them with a planetary-wide EMP. Raj said, we knocked their fleet off balance. But they're adapting again. Yara, still buzzing from activating the ancient technology, nodded. Their systems are rebooting. Within the hour, they'll be fully operational again. Boomer crossed his arms. So we pissed them off. Great. Any chance we can do it again? Yara hesitated. The machine isn't designed for repeated pulses in quick succession. If we push it too hard, it could destabilize the entire planet. Boomer gave a lopsided grin. So a little risk then. Vasquez ignored him. Focus on the map. We need a final move. something they won't see coming. The Kai had superior numbers, firepower, and technology, but humanity had something they didn't, a refusal to play by the rules. Vasquez looked at Raj. Tell me we can control that machine. Completely. Raj blinked. Theoretically? That's all I need. She turned to Yara. Could it be weaponized in a way they can adapt to? Yara frowned. Maybe. The energy isn't just electromagnetic. There's a gravitic component. If we modify the pulse, we could pull their ships down. Raj's eyes widened. You mean slam their entire fleet into the planet? Vasquez nodded. Boomer whistled. Captain, remind me never to piss you off. Yara exhaled. It's possible, but we'd need to manually override the fail-safes. The system wasn't designed for this. If we miscalculate, we'll bring the whole colony down with them. Vasquez met her gaze. Then we don't miscalculate. A plan was forming. It was insane, impossible, and their only shot, the final assault. The mission had two parts. Vasquez, Raj, and Yara would descend into the ancient ruins to manually reconfigure the machine. Meanwhile, Boomer and a handful of resistance fighters would launch a suicidal distraction attack, keeping the Kai ground forces busy long enough for the plan to work. As Boomer strapped himself with explosives, he grinned at Vasquez. This is a terrible idea. She smirked. Then it suits you perfectly. Boomer slung his rifle over his shoulder. You get that machine working. Captain, I'll make sure these bastards are too busy to stop you. Vasquez clasped his shoulder briefly. See you on the other side. Boomer just laughed. Wouldn't miss it. Then he was gone. Deep below, the cavern pulsed with ancient power as Vasquez, Yara, and Raj hurried through the ruins. The air shimmered, as if the planet itself was waiting for their decision. Raj reached the control station and pulled up the interface. Lines of alien code flickered across the screen. All right, he muttered. Let's break some laws of physics. Yara crouched beside him, analyzing the power flow. We need to redirect the gravitic energy upward instead of outward. It'll act like a tractor beam on a planetary scale. Vasquez kept her rifle ready. The deeper they had gone, the more uneasy she felt. Something about this place. It felt aware. Raj cursed. The fail-safes are buried in redundancies. It'll take time to bypass them. Then work faster, Vasquez said. The countdown had begun. Above, Boomer's last stand. Boomer drove a stolen Kai vehicle straight into their command post. The armored soldiers barely had time to react before he skidded to a stop, jumped onto the roof, and fired a grenade into their ranks. HFY ugly, he bellowed. Guess who's back? Gunfire erupted. Boomer sprinted across the battlefield, weaving through debris, tossing explosives, and creating absolute chaos. A Kai warlord spotted him and charged with a plasma blade. Boomer grinned. That all you got? The warlord swung. Boomer dodged, rolling between its legs and planting a mine on its back. He sprinted, diving into cover just as the warlord exploded behind him. The distraction was working. Every Kai in the area focused on him. Boomer chuckled to himself. Hope you're working fast down there, folks. The trigger, back in the ruins. Raj wiped sweat from his face. I think we're in. Yara's fingers danced over the controls, redirecting the energy pulse. We get one shot. Vasquez activated her comm. Boomer. Clear out. We're about to light the fireworks. Static. Then Boomer's voice, ragged. A little busy, Captain. Vasquez swore under her breath. Outside, the Kai fleet had stabilized. Their systems rebooted. Their ships began descending. Vasquez turned to Raj and Yara. We have to fire now. Yara hesitated. Boomer's still up there. Raj's screen flashed red. No time. If we wait, we lose everything. Vasquez clenched her jaw. Then, softly, do it. Yara's hand shook, but she pressed the final command. Above, the sky cracked apart with golden light. A gravitic pulse surged upwards, grabbing hold of the Kai ships. The entire fleet lurched, pulled downward by a force beyond their control. The ground trembled as warships spiraled into freefall, colliding in fiery explosions. One by one, the invaders were wrenched from the sky. The planet itself fought back. The cost. Vasquez held her breath. The Kai fleet was falling, but she only cared about one thing. "Boomer," she said into the comm, "come in." Silence. Then, crackling through the static, "Still here." Vasquez let out a breath. Boomer laughed weakly. "That was fun. Let's never do it again." Above, the last Kai warship smashed into ground, consumed by fire and ruin. The battle was over. Humanity had won. But Vasquez knew this wasn't the end. She looked at the ancient machine, still humming with power. They had turned the planet into a weapon. What else had they awakened? Smoke and dust hung thick in the air. Fires still smoldered where Kai warships had fallen. Their once indomitable forms reduced to wreckage scattered across Perseverance 3's battered surface. Captain Elena Vasquez stood atop a jagged outcrop, surveying the battlefield. They had won. But at what cost? The ancient machine, the planet itself, had chosen to fight alongside them. It had obeyed their commands. But Vasquez knew better than to mistake compliance for loyalty. Behind her, Raj Patel, Yara Quinn, and Boomer Kowalski climbed in the ruins, their faces grim. Boomer, bruised and limping, let out a slow whistle. Damn, that actually worked. Raj wiped dust from his glasses. "I still can't believe it. We brought down an entire fleet with a single machine." Yara, her eyes distant, touched the side of the obelisk. It still hummed with residual energy. "It's more than a machine," she said quietly. "We woke something up." Vasquez turned. "Explain." Yara exhaled. "The energy signatures. Raj and I were monitoring them during the pulse. They weren't just responding to us. They were anticipating, reacting in ways no automated system should." Boomer frowned. "You're saying it's alive?" "Not like we are. But sentient? Maybe. Aware? Absolutely." Yara shook her head. "I don't think this was just a weapon. I think it was a guardian. A fail-safe from whoever built it. Vasquez didn't like where this was going. And now that we've activated it..." Raj hesitated. "We don't know." Echoes of the past. The bunker remained eerily silent as they made their way back underground. The battle was over, but Vasquez's instinct screamed that something else was coming. Raj sat down at the main console, scrolling through the recovered data. I translated more of the glyphs. They keep referencing something, the Great Remnant. Vasquez folded her arms. "Sounds ominous." "It's mentioned alongside warnings," Raj continued. "Whatever this thing was designed for, it wasn't just to repel invaders. It was meant to hold something back." Boomer scoffed. "Yeah, well, it did a great job of that, until we started pushing buttons." Yara's fingers danced over the controls. "We should be seeing a power decline after that last pulse, but instead, it's growing. The machine is drawing energy from somewhere deeper." Raj went pale. "That's impossible. There's nothing down." A tremor rippled through the bunker. Dust rained from the ceiling. The obelisks flared with golden light, their symbols shifting as if in response. Vasquez grabbed a radio. "All units, report." What the hell was that? The comms hissed with static. Then a voice broke through. "Captain!" A resistance fighter shouted. "You need to get up here, now." Something else stirs. When they emerged from the bunker, the sky had changed. The storm clouds, once thick with fire and debris, now churned with something unnatural. A swirling void, a tear in reality itself, had begun forming where the Kai fleet had fallen. Boomer stared. That definitely wasn't there 5 minutes ago. Raj swore under his breath. No. The failsafe. This wasn't just a planetary defense system. It was a lock. And we just broke it. Yara pointed at the wreckage. "Look." From the charred remains of the Kai warships, something shifted. Not survivors. Not machines. Something else. Elongated, impossible shapes writhed in the distance. They didn't walk. They twisted through space, flickering in and out of reality. Dark forms with too many limbs, too many eyes, too much wrongness. Boomer gripped his rifle. "You've got to be kidding me." Vasquez's mind raced. The machine didn't just destroy the Kai. It had triggered something buried deep beneath the planet. something the original builders had kept sealed away, the great remnant. And now it was free, a choice with no good answers. Raj turned to Vasquez, panic in his eyes. We have to shut it down. If we can force the machine into a full system collapse. Yara cut him off. No, if we do that, we lose any chance of controlling it. We need to redirect the energy, not destroy it. Boomer raised an eyebrow. Redirect it where? Silence. Then Vasquez made her decision. We call for evac, she said. Get every human off this rock. Then we overload the system and send this thing into the void with those creatures. Raj hesitated. We might not survive that. Vasquez met his gaze. We survive what the universe pays for our mistake. Boomer sighed. Well, hell, guess I'll die the way I lived, blowing something up. Yara swallowed hard. Then we better move fast. The final stand. The next 30 minutes were chaos. Vasquez ordered the remaining human forces to evacuate, commandeering every functional ship they had left. The sky ripped wider, the monstrous forms emerging fully into the world, warping reality with each step. Raj and Yara worked frantically, overloading the ancient machine. Boomer held the line outside, his rifle overheating as he gunned down anything that moved. The creatures didn't die like normal beings. They collapsed inward, twisting on themselves like paper burning in reverse. Any time now. Boomer shouted. Vasquez grabbed the detonator. Raj, Yara, Joe. They sprinted for the last dropship. Vasquez stayed behind. Boomer stopped. What the hell are you doing? Someone has to trigger it manually, she said. Boomer clenched his jaw. Then with a sigh, he held out his fist. You're a pain in the ass, Captain. Vasquez smirked. Damn right. She bumped his fist. Then she pressed the detonator. The end and the beginning. The machine erupted in a surge of impossible energy. The creatures screamed, a sound that wasn't meant for human ears, as the gravity field folded space around them, pulling them and the entire facility into the abyss. From orbit, Raj and Yara watched as Perseverance. 3 collapsed inward, its surface breaking apart into a singularity. Vasquez and Boomer were gone, but so were the creatures. Silence filled the cockpit. Raj swallowed hard. Did we just... Yara nodded. Yeah, we saved the galaxy. She looked at the void where the planet had been, and we lost our best. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Raj whispered, Humanity doesn't yield. Yara tightened her grip on the controls. No, we don't. The ship turned, and the survivors of Perseverance, 3 headed for home,